All right, here we go. Agent B here. It is market update time. You got to stick around at the end today. And you know what? I know if you don't, because especially if you watch this through the email, because it'll show me the percentage. Like you watch 13%. And for those of you that stay for the whole 100%, thank you. And if you're watching this on social media, as usual, go to the description, click on the link, and then you can get all the information when I talk about the numbers below. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about two things at the end. So you got to stick around. One, in about 30 minutes from now, the Fed's going to make their big announcement on rate cuts, and they're going to say some other stuff that's probably not going to make people happy. And the other thing is I want to talk about what's going on with the market in regards to those initial buyers, the people that have kind of decided to buy a condo first, build equity, and go into homes, and how that's going to affect the market and what's going on with that. So you got to stick around to find out that news, okay? So all kinds of information coming out right now, though. So inventory took a drop of about 7% here in the last couple months, but that's still up from about 16% last year. So we're still in a good place for inventory, but it has dropped, as we always talk about, because it's the end of the year. So that's just kind of how it is, but it's a good sign that we do have more inventory still than we had last year, even though we have a little bit of a dip. Demand is down a little bit, and it's actually down from last year as well. So that's not really the best sign for us. It could just be some buyers are having fatigue here going into December. They can't buy what they want, and so maybe they're waiting for the first of the year, but we are seeing demand kind of slow down, even though we are seeing still, buying outstrip what's going on with the market. It's still kind of slower than it usually is, especially slower than last year, which is not a great sign. Days on market are it's kind of slowing down, depending on what quartile you're in, but it is slowing down a little bit, taking a little bit longer, of course, this time of the year. People aren't listening to my advice, and maybe they're like, hey, I'm just going to wait. And so things are sitting a little bit longer, and that is definitely going to affect listings. So don't give up on your listing if you're a seller. A lot of people right now are definitely starting to cancel those listings, which always happens this time of the year, and they bring them back February, March, once the holidays are over. They got through their Super Bowl parties and their Valentines and everything else. But so we're still seeing that happen a little bit as far as the days on market are going to start being affected as we go this next couple of weeks, okay? There are only like 4 distressed properties this week, so don't think that the market's crashing. I think there were 6 this time last year, so there's really not a crash. And I think they said that it's over 99% of homes that have been sold in this fourth quarter have been from people that have equity in their homes. So that's a good sign that the market's still strong enough to have equity in a lot of these homes out there, and it's definitely helping sellers. So even if it's we're seeing a slow rise in prices, which is a good thing, we are still seeing that people can build equity in a home. So still a great investment, obviously, on a home to do something like that. Okay, before I get to the condo sales, I want to talk about the Fed. So I'm glad you stuck with me this long. I know it's been a second, but so here's my prediction. Fed's going to come out, do like a quarter-point drop, and then right after they do the drop, the Fed chairman is going to make a comment like, but we're kind of tempering our excitement here. These are kind of tempered results, or we're not really bearish. A little bit bearish, not as bullish as we were before. And that's going to make the markets kind of go, meh, meh. It's going to have a big effect on probably the stock markets. And then also the rates we're at right now, if you looked at the rates, we're like 6.25 right now. Last week we're at like 6. And so probably next week will be, or 6.125 right now, but we'll probably be 6.25 next week. And may even see a little bit more increase going to the end of the year. This is my prediction. And then hopefully going into the new year, we'll start seeing a little bit of a slump here with the rates. And maybe they'll start coming down and helping out those buyers, kind of in anticipation that the market's going to heat up. So I think that's what's going to happen with the Fed today. They're going to announce a little bit of a rate cut, but then throw a damp towel on that with the economy and kind of temper everybody's expectations and slow things down like they always do. And then we'll kind of see how it develops through the end of the year, okay? Last thing I want to talk about is we talk about how condos in the past have been kind of like the entry point for a lot of people. I know it was for us. And so with the condo market, we're starting to see less people jump into that entry point. A lot of buyers are kind of having fatigue from just the pricing, because what's happened is condos used to be like, so much cheaper than buying a home. But the problem is now is that the HOAs are raising their fees so high that you're seeing average fees in Orange County $400-500+ a month for these HOAs. So is it worth it to still get a condo? Well, I'm going to do a separate video on this, but I'll just throw some bullet points out at you right now on this and talk about how it's going to affect the market, because this affects home costs as well, because if you have less people buying condos and trying to save up to wait for those single family homes, now there's more competition in those, and that'll push the prices there and bring that inventory down. But if you're going to buy a condo, a couple things. Think of all the expenses involved, not just the HOA. You know, what utilities are covered? Are there any special assessments coming? What's not covered by the HOA? You're starting to see some of the HOAs where they're, hey, we're not covering the roof. Or we're not covering pest control. We're not covering different things. So find that out first. Does it make sense to you? The other thing is, make sure your HOA has plenty of reserves just in case something does come up, that they can fix those items, that they're not going to hit you with a special assessment for new siding or new roofs or new fencing or whatever it is, that they have that in their budget already. If this is not going to be your forever home, there's a new bullet point, another one. I always talk about this, your budget. If you're going in and saying, hey, we have a 5-year plan on this home, keep to that 5-year plan and work on your budget, work on what your spending is, work on what your saving is, and stick to it, because it's very easy to get in there and say, wow, we've got our own place now, and then throw those plans out the window, and now you're stuck. So make sure you're sticking to the plan and find out those previous 2 bullet points beforehand to make sure you can do that. And obviously, if all your criteria is met, you know, it's still a great option to start in with that condo or that townhome before you go into a home if you want to stop paying someone else's mortgage. Okay? So a lot of news today. I know I went kind of long. Thanks for hanging with me if you did. You know, again, the Fed, let's see what they do, but we'll come back next week. I'll tell you if I was completely wrong or if I was right, or you can call me and say, Brian, you were right on. I can't believe this again. So that's it, but a lot happening. Look at all the numbers down below and let me know what you think and what you need. Of course, Agent B is here to help when you're ready. Have a great week. Now, it's going to be 83 degrees out here today in Southern California. It's crazy. So it's Christmas time. I got to go. I'll see ya.